So let's talk about discipline versus motivation, because I think these are two things that are pretty important when it comes to the recipe for success. And I think you do need both of them in order to be successful. But the question becomes which one is more important? And I think without a doubt, discipline is going to beat motivation every single time, right? Because I can explain this with an example. The actually scratch that, two examples. Back a few years ago, I had started a blog about personal finance. I was writing a lot of articles and just talking about personal finance. A lot of similar topics that I talk about on this channel. But I was really just writing blogs and articles on a website that I had built. Again, this is like 2 or 3 years ago at this point. And there were times where I just didn't want to post. I just didn't feel like writing the stuff up. And I think, after a while, I just lost motivation. And that's when the discipline kicks in, right? That's when, even if you don't want to do something, you keep doing it. And while I'm ashamed to say, I didn't have the discipline back then. I didn't have it. I stopped writing the blogs. I let my website come down, and that was the end of that. And I moved on with life. I went back to, just working like a quote unquote normal person, doing my thing. Fast forward to 3 years later, here we are on this YouTube channel. And again, right when I started this channel, I was incredibly motivated. I got, new equipment. I got a nice setup for creating these videos. And I was rocking and rolling for like the first 2 to 3 months. But then that motivation starts to fade again, right? Like we're always so motivated at the beginning of things, but then, life goes on, things come up, we get busy, we have, different interests and priorities that seem to pop up. And this happens basically with everything, right? You start something new, you start a new hobby, a new job, maybe a new side hustle, you start a business, and then that motivation begins to fade. The difference this time is I believe I have the discipline now to keep going. And thus far, I've proved it. I've posted 3 videos every week since May, and we're in November now. And I plan to keep, this discipline in place. I want to do something with this channel. I want to, build it up and share, my thoughts and interests with people, and hopefully one way or another in the future somehow like really help people. And that's not to say these videos aren't helping people. I really hope they are. I hope I'm providing some sort of value to, my viewers. And I can't stress how much I appreciate you guys, especially, you guys who are watching, every single week. I really can't thank you enough. So I appreciate your support. But with that being said, I will admit I do lose motivation sometimes, and sometimes I don't feel like putting the videos together. I'm either tired from work or I got other stuff I got to do. I got to hit the gym, but being disciplined has kept me posting 3 times a week since May. And without that discipline, I probably would have stopped because the motivation faded for a little while. I'm feeling pretty good about it now, and I'm actually feeling pretty motivated at this point in time. But again, I will admit there has been times over the past 6 months or whatever it is, that I lost motivation, and I wasn't excited about posting because again I had other stuff going on, other responsibilities, stress from work and personal stuff, and just whatever the case may be. And I'm not trying to play victim by any means. I know we all have things that go on in our lives. People have it 100 times worse than me, and I understand that. And that's not to even say I have it bad. Like I'm happy with my life. I'm not only content, but I'm happy with my life. And especially all the changes that have gone on for me over the past year. I've switched jobs, moved, got into a new relationship. My girlfriend's fantastic. Like I don't know. There's just a lot of things have changed for the better. And I think all of that tends to sort of get in the way of things, especially this quote unquote side business, the side hustle that I'm working on with YouTube. Um, and I don't know. I just feel like the discipline that I've had and kept throughout these past 6 months is what has kept this YouTube channel alive for me. And hopefully this is just the beginning, man. Like I want to do a lot with this. I want to take it a long way. I want to not only, build a sustainable financial future for myself, but again, I want to be able to help people, and hopefully this channel can help get me there. Um, but again, without the discipline, you know, I don't think it would even be possible. This channel probably would have died already. Because again, the motivation has faded. Actually, scratch that. Let me phrase this differently. The motivation when I was posting those blogs faded, and so did the discipline, and that website died. The motivation faded at one point for this channel, but the discipline stuck around, and this channel is still alive. So that's why I believe discipline beats motivation every single time. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind if you're feeling down about something, whether it's your job or going to the gym or building a business or studying for an exam or a certificate or something along those lines. Just stay disciplined and it will pay off in the end. And I think a lot of this has to do with two things. It's going to be self control and consistent habits. If you keep in mind the big picture, the big goals, I feel like it's easier to control yourself, especially like on the weekends, right? Like I like to drink, beers and stuff like that. I don't party like I used to back in college or anything like that, but I still like to drink beers. I enjoy an IPA here and there, glass of wine. But there's a difference between that and going out and getting crazy and getting hammered and ruining your next day because you're so hungover. So I think like, self-control and understanding the effects of your decisions plays a role, but also building consistent habits too. Like I have some small habits that I pretty much stick to religiously, and they help me stay, in control. So I guess they work hand in hand, right? These small habits and the self control. Like for example, every Sunday, I'll normally go grocery shopping and then I'll cook my lunches for the week. That way, two things are done by this. Number one, I'm cooking healthy food, so I'm prioritizing my health and I feel good. But I'm also not spending money on lunch every day at work. And I know a lot of people do this, even at my job. And it just blows my mind how much money they spend on lunch. So that small, consistent habit of grocery shopping every Sunday and then meal prepping my lunches for the week, it makes me healthier. It keeps me on a schedule and it saves me money. And this is just one example. If I have 10 other examples, that have these types of effects on me, on my life, on my quality of life, on my finances, that adds up to a lot. That makes a big difference in your quality of life. So I think building those small, consistent habits and controlling yourself, that's part of staying disciplined and ultimately reaching the goals that you set for yourself. So that's really what I believe is the recipe, at least in my recent experiences. What's been working for me, and I'll leave it off on one note. You know, keeping all this in mind, staying disciplined, working towards your goals, all that is important, and it should be your main priority. But don't forget to treat yourself every once in a while, right? Reward yourself because you work really hard and you deserve it. And again, this is something that I feel like I've struggled with in the past is rewarding myself and spending money on myself. So next year I'm planning a trip that, I've definitely never been to this location before. I don't want to spoil it just yet. I'll probably end up making a video about it, but I will be leaving the country. I'm in the US and I will be leaving the country for the first time. And I'm really excited about it. It's very exciting. I'll definitely share more with you guys. But this is, I want to reward myself for how hard I've worked over the past 5 years, getting debt free, building up an emergency fund and a investment portfolio that I'm comfortable with at my age. Like I worked really hard for this shit and I deserve this. So I'm gonna do it. Life's short. You got to reward yourself. So that's that. I'm going to leave it off with that. I appreciate you guys checking in as always. If you are new here, I post all kinds of content about personal finance, life experiences, anything I feel like talking about. If you like this kind of content, I post every Tuesday and Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, and then on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. If you like this kind of content, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.